While questions currently exist if the Chicago Bears are going to be more sellers or buyers at the trade deadline, one of the things that gives the Ryan Poles the flexibility to not have to make a deal is the depth that he's built on this team. We're talking a little bit about that depth, plus the growth of Caleb Williams. And should the Bears really be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? We'll talk about all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go to get into this content for today. Y'all want to start off talking about this, right? Is that the depth that Ryan Poles has really built on this team, specifically in the secondary, is something special, right? And while we want to see that depth across other positions for the Chicago Bears as well, namely that offensive line, I think he tried to do that this offseason, but, we'll see what he does going forward. The defense specifically, the depth in that secondary has been amazing. And the reason why I'm talking about this, of course, yesterday, not positive injury updates to Kyler Gordon or Jaquan Brisker. Those guys are still not healthy. They're still not cleared and ready to go. They did not practice. Now we're hoping that some things change by Friday that would add to their outlook of being able to play in Sunday's game against the Commanders. But the thing here is that if they are not able to take the field, the Bears still have tremendous depth. You look at last week's game, missing Kyler Gordon, missing Jaquan Brisker, right? Jalen Jones, who had 10 tackles, stepped up hugely for the Chicago Bears. Josh Blackwell as well defended a pass and had an interception. And then Elijah Hick, who was stepping in for the injured Jaquan Brisker, had 5 tackles, a pass deflected, and a fumble recovery. The depth that we've built here through the secondary has been something special, and it's why we have one of the best secondaries in the game of football. Now, understandably so, a lot of people are questioning how well will the Bears' defense, depth, whatever you're looking at, start faring when the competition gets better. And that's a fair question, right? But when you look at us getting Terrell Smith back, right, which is a big thing, when you look at us getting Tyreek Stevenson back and add that to the players that have stepped up, the next man up mentality of the Chicago Bears team has been tremendous, right? And then even when you look in the defensive line, something that a lot of Bears fans are talking about, the chance of the Bears going out and trading for Max Crosby or Myles Garrett or, whoever else you want to mention. The fact is that we've built tremendous depth on that defensive line as well. When you look at Montez Sweat, Javon Dexter, Andrew Billings, right? Then you still have Darrell Taylor. You still have Austin Booker, who's playing more and more for the Chicago Bears team as well. You still have Chris Jones on this roster. And that's one of the reasons why, there may be some confidence from Ryan Poles to not have to make a move at the deadline. Not saying he won't make a move, but where he may not have to make a move. Now, again, the quality depth is one thing. You want top of the end talent. And that may be why, if Ryan Poles does make a move, he makes one. But I think right now, when you look at what we've built here and the fact that we're getting quality play out of everyone, you look at how we've gotten some of these guys. Jalen Jones, for example, right? Now, I know he's not somebody that everybody loves, and he does have his moments where, it is what it is. But look at where we got him at and how we brought him into this roster. You look at Elijah Hicks, a 7th-round pick in 2022, and how he's really played extremely well for the Chicago Bears. One of the things that I always say is that when you get quality out of your later picks, right? If you can get players that can turn into, at the bare minimum, depth pieces, if you can get, because some of those guys aren't on a roster in 2 or 3 years, right? If you can get role players to depth pieces that can play or step up for you when you need it out of those later picks, that's what starts sustaining you. That's what starts giving you a foundation of having success long term, right? And that's what Ryan Poles has really found when it comes down to it. Ryan Poles has done a really good job of finding fits, right, when it comes down to it. Josh Blackwell as well, an undrafted free agent with the Eagles. He comes here. He played in Duke. He comes here and he actually plays pretty goddamn well for the Chicago Bears. And again, in the context of how we need him to play. And that's something that, with Ryan Poles and the criticism that he got early on because of the offensive line and when this offense wasn't really playing well, I think you got to really look at it is that Poles has done a damn good job, a way better job than what we're used to at getting quality out of almost every pick. Now, he's had his misses, and he's going to. Velus Jones was a miss. right? There's no way around that. Dominique Robinson, no matter where he drafted, was a miss, right? And so every GM is going to have their misses up and down the draft or in free agency. They're going to happen to it. But I think when you really look at how Ryan Poles has learned from his mistakes, hopefully he starts learning from that on the offensive line as well. When you look at how he's gotten quality out of a lot of picks, look at where we got Austin Booker, right? Look at those type of things. So it's all about that aspect of it. And when you have a GM that can have that kind of forward thinking and can hit on picks later in, it kind of overcomes some of the other shortcomings that Ryan Poles has. But listen, my boy, we still need you to fix that offensive line in this offseason. Of course, I think this is going to be a very trenches-heavy offseason, but we got 11 games left. Let's focus on that. But depth has been a big thing for this team. And, even so much so that we have depth to where we're not using a player like Khil Herbert, who should be getting snaps. I want to be clear here, and we'll talk a little bit more about Khil here at the end of this episode when we talk about being buyers and sellers and the players that the Bears reportedly have on the trade market. But I think right now, when you got to look at it, is injuries come. And that's going to happen. Injuries are going to come over the course of an NFL season. These guys are battling. They're running into each other. They're hitting each other. It's a combat sport, right? But we have depth, and we have really good depth. Like I said, the defensive line, look at that. Montez, Darrell Taylor, Daniel Hardy, Andrew Billings, Zach Pickens. Hopefully Zach Pickens he's gotten cleared as well. He can come in and start actually looking pretty damn good for this team. You got Javon Dexter, Chris Williams as well, DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker. You got guys here, right? Again, do you have the guys that are the stars or anything like that? These guys aren't going to be heralded, but you got guys who get the job done. And that's what Ryan Poles, and that's what's given this luxury of Ryan Poles not necessarily feeling like he has to make a knee-jerk reaction type move. Now, he may make a calculated one. This is not one to say that, hey, we're good because we got depth. We don't need anybody else. No, that's not to say that. But it is to say that let's acknowledge what we do have here, and let's hope that we continue to build off that. That gives you that solid foundation. And so, we got that. We got a lot of players as well that we don't know who and what they're going to be. Haven't gotten to see a lot of Zach Pickens or Noah Sewell, right? Because these guys have both either been hurt or fallen out of the rotation, things like that. Noah Sewell, who I was really excited about as a 5th-round pick, I think has 1 tackle this season so far. We need a little bit better than that. But overall, I think when you look at the secondary, and I didn't even mention Jonathan Owens when I talked about the secondary either, right? So we have depth, and and our depth may be the key to the rest of the season for the Chicago Bears, especially on that defensive side of the ball. And we're getting some added depth as well coming back on that offensive side of the ball as well. You're getting Ryan Bates coming back eventually, right? Travis Homer, who recently came back. And again, I'm not the biggest Travis Homer guy, but again, as a depth piece, we'll see what he can bring overall. Larry Borum, who's reporting on the trading block. Let's see what the Bears can get out of this depth, right? And let's see how that continues to grow and develop for this team. But if we see Ryan Poles kind of stand pat at the trade deadline, if it does that, I think the depth will be a big reason. Ryan Poles' faith in the depth that this Bears team has may be a big reason on why he feels like he doesn't have to make a move. But let's see if he does. Let me know down below, right? And we'll get into the trade talk at the end of this episode. But let me know down below. If right now, with where you sit, do you think that not if you think he should or not, but do you think Ryan Poles will stand pat at the trade deadline, or do you think he's going to make, and by stand pat, I mean making a big name acquisition? I do think we're going to see some names sent out, but do you think Ryan Poles is going to make a big time acquisition at this trade deadline for the Chicago Bears? Let me know that down below. Now, with that said, I want to get into our next topic, and that is that when you look at the Making the Monsters podcast, Tim Jenkins, who's known as like the QB developer there, he's the CEO of the Jenkins Elite. It's a great training program, and he has a QB channel, All Things QB as well. And he talked a lot about Caleb Williams. It's going to be very quote heavy, but a lot of what he said I really liked to hear, and I think some Bears fans need to hear it as well. He said this: I think Caleb's always made physical throws. I don't think anyone has ever turned on his film and thought, oh, he can't make XYZ or whatever throw. He's always been able to make the physical throws. I think for me, the thing that's been funny is I was super critical of Chicago's offensive coordinator Shane Waldron weeks 1 through 3. I think it wasn't great, and then that's gotten better, and Caleb's gotten better. And the thing you wonder how much he really trusted Caleb, and I know I mean that in a super negative way, and I don't mean that in a super negative way. It's almost as if they kept training wheels on him, and I almost wonder if the reality for Caleb is we just need to take the training wheels off, and it seems like they've done that the last 3 weeks. Now, we've talked about this heavily here, right? that the Bears did throw the whole playbook at Caleb. And this is really the first time that we've heard someone say that maybe they kept the training wheels on Caleb too long. We've heard kind of the opposites from some other people, but this is somebody who literally their job is to analyze quarterbacks and offenses, right? And so for him to say that the Bears maybe kept the training wheels on Caleb, right, simplified that offense to him a little bit too much, it's really kind of eye-opening because everybody develops differently, right? Some people develop by throwing them off the deep end and letting them figure out. Some people develop through more structured, making it kind of safe for them. And as their confidence in that safety builds, they get better, right? Caleb Williams seems like somebody who is like, give it to me, right? Give me all the responsibility. Either if I sink or swim, it's going to be on me, and I'm going to learn through that. He also chips in to say this as well. You saw in Caleb versus the Colts how accurate he can be in the quick game. You saw him start to drive the football down the field a little bit. You saw that if there is a game where we've got to throw it 40 or 50 times, he's kind of the guy that can keep you competitive. And listen, like as much as been made of the game where Caleb Williams had over 50 throws, the fact of the matter is he found a way to be productive in it, right? And that is something that, again, somebody who can deal with that responsibility, and that's what Caleb Williams has really shown so far, right? Now, Jenkins went on to talk about Caleb Williams in the quick game saying this. You're more or less eliminating some of these guys pre-snap. Caleb does a great job going, okay, hey, we've got this concept against the coverage. I'm going to eliminate these guys, and I'm going to start here, which is technically on paper football his third progression. He's putting his eyes there first, and the guy's open. He's getting it out of his hand. That's where I think when you watch the rookies, you can tell if he really is picking up the NFL or is he not. Caleb is. And, yeah, we're seeing the development of Caleb Williams, right? And I've said it before. People who try to act like Caleb Williams isn't developing or isn't he's already on pace to have the best Bears rookie season that we've seen maybe ever, right? And so Caleb is going and growing through things. That's the thing. And that's what I said coming into this season that I wanted to see for Caleb. It wasn't about him being perfect from day one. It wasn't about him looking generational from day one. Not for me. It was more so about, okay, how do you learn from your mistakes? The mistakes you make in week 1, are those eliminated by week 5, right? Or even sooner than that. That's what you want to see from Caleb. And the fact that, Jenkins is saying here that he's processing, he's looking at his third read first, right? He's going through the progression so much that he knows where that third read's going to be, where most quarterbacks are still looking to see where their first read is. And picking up the NFL, that is what you want to see. Caleb Williams, there's a learning curve. And I get it that all the preseason talk about Caleb Williams, all these type of things, it added a level of expectation that Caleb was realistically never going to live up to, not right away, right? Now, long term, yes, he has the capability of living up to it. And I know for Bears fans that we want it now. We've struggled so long at that quarterback position. We want our franchise quarterback now. But listen, it's been there. Jenkins goes on to say this. So to me, I think that's where I've been really impressed. The playing within the system, like he's going to have to do to have a long NFL career. He's doing a great job of finding the balance between when do I need to play on time and when is it worth me scrambling. That's another thing that Caleb Williams definitely does. Now, I would say sometimes he maybe tries to wait for something to develop a little too long at times, but that's just because he's a pass-first quarterback. He doesn't look to make plays with his legs first. He looks to make that play down the field first, and if that doesn't happen, he can make plays with his legs. Now, Jenkins goes on to compare Caleb Williams to other rookie quarterbacks, and he says this. I do think right now Caleb is in another league in terms of how he's operating the pro offense compared to Bo Nix. I think he's doing a really good job with his eyes. His eye discipline is something we don't talk about enough. We need good young quarterbacks in the league, and I think there's not enough quality quarterback play right now, so I do think Caleb has a shot to be that challenger. We all get excited, but there's also 15 in Kansas City, and at some point you're going to have to take down, and 9 in Cincinnati, and you got to be ready to beat those guys. I think Caleb is operating a pro system this early in his career is going to have kind of the best shot. That's big words there. That is big words there. And again, it's up to Caleb and this offense and the coaching staff to live up to that, to get Caleb Williams in the spot to live up to that. Play calling is important, right? But we're seeing Caleb Williams, even at this early point in the season, feel a lot more comfortable changing plays at the line, right? He's doing that more consistently. And I think that the quick offense is going to be something that is going to be a special thing for Caleb, at least this first rookie year, right? When the way that Caleb Williams operates and the success that he has on quick throws and running a more up-tempo offense has been palpable. You can't deny that you see that from Caleb Williams. And when you're looking at making things easier for your team and your quarterback, you want to take advantage of the things that are working for you. And right now, that's something that has been working for the Chicago Bears. Going into the quick offense, running a more up-tempo offense. And it's really good to see Caleb Williams find that wrinkle. Not every rookie quarterback really finds their lane of success for them. And that's not the only thing Caleb Williams has been successful in. He's growing exponentially week after week, right? And growth isn't always linear. He's going to face some huge tests coming up, and he's probably going to get the Bears themselves as a team are going to get punched in the fucking mouth a couple of these weeks, right? But they're still there. You're looking at what's been there so far for this team, and the growth, the development, those type of things that are playing into this team are huge and great to watch. And overall, really excited to see how Caleb Williams finished this season. Now, one of the things that's going to play into how the Bears finish this season is this team overall. And that brings us to the rumors around the Chicago Bears at the trade deadline. Me, Bobby, and C-Dub talked about it a little bit yesterday on our normal midweek live stream. But then we get into this, right? Per Jeremy Fowler, the Chicago Bears have four players on the trade block. And that's guard Nate Davis, that's Khil Herbert, Dominique Robinson, and Larry Borom. Now, when you look at why each of these guys are on the trade block, it really kind of all makes sense. Of course, Nate Davis is garbage. He's completely been phased out. With the return of Ryan Bates pending, he's going to go even further down that depth chart. God forbid if the Bears do acquire another guard or multiple position offensive lineman, Nate Davis time in Chicago is done, is what it comes down to. And so it should not be surprising that if the Bears can get anything back for Nate Davis and for a team that could be looking to move on from a piece, maybe a more long-term contract, and Nate Davis can get them $8.5 million in savings by waiving him and cutting him next year, that's something that teams could be looking to take advantage of. As well as the fact that Nate Davis as well, I'm sure that maybe some team that squints their eyes and wants to convince themselves that Nate Davis can come in and be a depth piece on that offensive line. If they want to try to rehab that, let him do it. And maybe a change of scenery would also be good for Nate Davis. Maybe, right? We've seen change of sceneries work for players before. But Nate Davis being somebody that's on the trade block should not be surprising. It'd actually be more surprising if the Bears can get anything back that's decent for him, right? That would be more surprising than the Bears wanting to move on from him because Nate Davis has given us nothing. Since signing that contract, that guaranteed contract, it's been nothing burger for Nate Davis. Now, I understand what he went through with his family last year, but listen, we're removed from that. Nate Davis has sucked, and that just is what it is. He's not been good. He's been unplayable, and those type of things, you can't deny that. That's where Nate Davis has been. Khil Herbert is a different story, right? Khil Herbert is a player that teams can absolutely help a team on the playoff push with depth, even if you've gotten injured to your starter and you need somebody to come in and perform well while that starter's down, and then he can be the second running back. Like Khil Herbert for his career averages 4.8 yards per carry. And while his best season was his second season, no, that's understandable. It's 731 yards, 4 touchdowns of his 9 in his NFL career. The fact of the matter is the Bears aren't using Khil Herbert. And while I understand the conversation around depth, keeping him for this, at some point, scared money don't make money. You got to make a decision. If there's something out there that can help your team in the long run, because Khil Herbert isn't here in the long run, you may have to weather the storm in the short term. And I understand the people who say, well, if we're trying to make a playoff run, if we're trying to do this, we can't just afford to give up depth. Well, guess what? If we want to be and have a deep team and have players for years and years, you also can't afford to let somebody walk if there's value for them in the trade market. You got to look at the short term and the long term. And while, yes, the effect on depth in the short term could absolutely come back to bite the Bears in the ass. Let's be clear here. But let's not act like we haven't been the team before that is signed to Darren and Evans, that's come in and performed well for us and for 3 weeks, and then we send him on his way, right? That's where this league is. As long as you have the blocking, you can get solid production out of running backs. It just depends on what you have, right? So if the Bears are willing to take on the risk to eliminate some of their depth, to take on a player that can help them, to take on an asset that can help them in the future or whatever else, it makes sense that Khil Herbert is on that trade block. Now, if the Bears get a deal done, that's another question. And then you look at Larry Borom and Dominique Robinson. Dominique Robinson specifically, who in his rookie year looked really solid as a depth piece at times for this Bears team. But then things quickly fell off. And then when you look at it as well, that depth that we've talked about, he's gotten passed up by Austin Booker. He's gotten passed up by Darrell Taylor. He's gotten passed up by Daniel Hardy. He's got passed up by Chris. He got passed up in everything. The Bears try to use him on the inside and outside during training camp to see what he can bring. And the fact is that Dominique Robinson, while still young and still has some potential, has not really progressed in a meaningful enough way to be a part of the Chicago Bears' future. And so because of that, again, if you can get something back for that player that just is not being utilized and is not going to crack that rotation for you, you do that, right? So these 4 players, and Larry Borom, and it comes down to Larry Borom, he's been gotten passed up by a lot of people. I think even Trion Magaje is ahead of him at this point, Matt Pryor, those type of guys, Ryan Bates coming back. So I think it just comes down to these are all pieces that the Bears aren't using and they have no plans to use. And because of that, if you decide to move on from these guys, if you get something back, that's a bonus. And so the Bears have to use that. They have to take those calculated risks. I understand the safety in saying let's have Khil Herbert there as a safety net in case somebody gets hurt. I'm not saying anybody's crazy for feeling that way. But again, scared money don't make money. And if this Bears team wants to make money either now or in the short term or long term, you may have to take that advantage of a player that's clearly not in your future. He's not in your current plans. And reportedly, we heard, listen, if Travis Homer's healthy, we've heard that Travis Homer. Now, again, I don't agree with that. I think Khil Herbert should play. But at the end of the day, the Bears have made their decision. And if that decision means that you're getting something back for a player that still has value around the league, that's the right decision to make, regardless of how we feel about it personally as fans of this team and the safety net that it provides. But let me know what you guys think down below. Buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, where do you think the Chicago Bears will sit? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.